Now as we move forward to the next Paripreksh, and this is the interesting signature panel discussion that we have, and this is related to NCF, effective implementation of NCF in foundational years. I'd like to call upon the panel Dr. Amrita Rajpal, who's the founder of Learrn and ECA Territory Head Mumbai. I'd like to call upon Tasneem, who's the coordinator for Fazlani Academie and a committee member at ECA again. Ritu Joshi, founder and head of School Little Oaks Preschool and Activity Center and an ECA committee member Mumbai. Nanu, Rekhi, advisor with the Bharati Public School Delhi, and Manobi, Deka, founder director Sparsh Group of Schools and ECA Territory Head. आप म्यूजिक भी क्यों कर रहे भैया? लोगों को बुला रहे हैं. Thank you. Thank you. Over to you, Amrita. You've got a mic there.
Everyone, good morning.
Good morning.
Good. So today's Paripreksh is the implementation of NEP 2020 in the early years. So this NEP, the National Education Policy 2020, is a transformative vision. You all can hear me? Yeah. So it's a transformative vision that aims to revolutionize India's education system. It's been introduced after a gap of 34 years. And this policy aims to address the challenges of 21st century learners. So yesterday we had that question from Rita ji, what do you want your citizen of the 21st century to be like? Well, today's topic is all going to define that. So yesterday we also discussed the dismal figures in literacy in the country. And we have to do something about it. There has to be some kind of reformation over there. But before we as educators take to reforming and changing the education landscape of our country, we really need to understand this NEP in totality. So 630 pages in totality, in theory and in practice. So panelists, thank you so much for your time coming over here and wanting to share with all of us so generously. I'm going to talk a little bit about the format so everyone knows the rules and how it's going to be conducted. So we have 2 questions, alright? 1 question per round. The first question, the answer you will take 5 minutes to answer because it's an in-depth question, alright? And in the second round, you take 3 minutes to answer the question. And then of course, like the children in our classroom, they need to have a voice. Audience over here also needs to have a voice. So we'll take in your questions after they finish their questions. Now this policy document is 630 pages. So I'm urging all of you to write questions or ask questions only on what the speaker has spoken. Because if you ask some questions out of syllabus, right? Then it's going to take time for them to think of the answers and explain it to you. And it's also going to take you time to understand those answers. So we're not going to walk that path. Write those questions on what the speaker is speaking. Okay? We're not going to waste too much time. Everyone's waiting. This is the 5 minutes per answer. We're starting with you, Dr. Simanegi. So the NCF, I'm going to move my chair so that I have a better view of everything. No, you are perfect. Yeah. So the NCF has spoken about Panch Kocha Vikas. This explains that the child is a whole being with Panch Koshas or 5 layers or 5 sheets. Alright? So the layers are the Annamana Kosha, which is the physical layer. And then we have the Manomaya Kosha, which is the mind layer. We have the Pranamaya Kosha, which is the life energy layer. We have the Vijnanamaya Kosha, which is the intellectual layer. And then finally the Anandamaya Kosha, which is the inner self. So all these layers exhibit distinct characteristics. and the holistic development of a child takes into account the nurturing and nourishment of all these 5 layers. Now, Dr. Negi, I want you to explain Panchakosha Vikas, which is a 5-fold development we've just spoken about, with respect to the NEP and the child. And how is this knowledge used in the teaching learning process in the classroom?
Good morning everyone. Thank you for that question. Really interesting one. So before I begin with the answer, I quickly want to ask one question, and the moment my question is over, I want answer. Do not think, okay? It's not fastest finger first, it's a chorus answer. So A for? Apple was the first answer. Let's get ready to relearn. Very important, okay? Because here we are talking about the holistic development of the child, and we are talking about all the 5 koshas. So these panch koshas are like the layers of onion, okay? Each layer is equally important. Now how we can incorporate it in our teaching learning? So rather than going theoretical, I will give you some takeaways examples which you can do in your school right now immediately after going, okay? Now when we talk about the first kosha, that is the Annamaya kosha, which is physical development, each one of us know that when a child is coming to early years, physical development, nutrition, healthy eating is very, very important, and all the habits starts from there. The habit of zero hunger, suppose if you are talking about sustainable development goal, if we teach a child that last bite in your plate, you don't have to waste it. So you know, if you have 30 students, 30 bites multiplied by 24 number of days that they come to school, how much food are we keeping it for someone who really do not get the food? Okay, so we are not wasting food. Now when it comes to physical development, small things that you might be doing in your school, if I talk about obstacle course, okay, it's a game wherein you can let the child crawl, you can let the child jump, you can let the child skip, hop, anything. Make things challenging for them and introduce the element of gamification. Now when I say gamification, it is not about technology. Get it clear, gamification can be done here right now. Any topic you give us and we will turn it into gamification. Start thinking out of the box. Then you can have a lot of yoga for kids, you can take them outside. Many of you might have clicked the photographs near the swimming pool yesterday, right? What was so appealing? It was outdoor, it was refreshing. When we went there in the afternoon, it was too hot, we were not comfortable. When we went there in the evening, the similar surrounding was much soothing. So outdoor teaches us lifelong lessons which will always stay with us. That is your first kosha. So when we move towards the next one, which is Pranamaya kosha, which is energy and vitality. You must be teaching yoga or breathing to your children, right? Now breathing can be very interesting. Don't make it too boring that okay, सांस को अंदर आने दो, सांस को बाहर जाने दो, and children really sometimes feel क्यों करा रहे हैं. Now if I have to teach it to an early learner, I say okay, breathe in, and now when you are breathing out, you have to breathe out in the form of bubbles. Try doing it. Okay, you will enjoy. It's a game for you. Till the time we do not add the element of play or game for this generation, maybe it will be difficult for us to incorporate all the koshas and make it interesting for them. Similarly, when you narrate a story, and in your story if a fox is there, a dog is there, an alligator is there, can you tell the children to take the pose of that? So it's story along with yoga. You are teaching them about Pranamaya kosha. We move out, okay, we go outdoor. Again, whichever kosha we are talking about, outdoor plays a major role because no more we want to confine our children to the 4 walls. Let's move to the next one, which is Manomaya kosha, that is emotional and mental development. And trust me, the children who are there in our classroom right now, the pandemic generation, many of the students we have seen that they are facing issues with their speech. Many of them, they do not want to be in the social surrounding because that is what they have not seen when they were born. So first and foremost, it is very important that make an ecosystem for them wherein they feel valued, wherein they are able to come and talk to you. The child who is coming to nursery will not talk to you in English if that is not the language. Are you providing comfort to the child? So if you are taking care of their emotional and mental well-being, trust me, after that, whatever you will tell, the child will do. If you want to tell a child to sit down, you are a teacher who speaks in a very good English, but does not know that the child is not looking for sit down. Child is looking for baisi ja, neat bus, bad jao. You have to get connected to the child. That is your Manomai Kosha, where you are getting emotionally connected to the child. One more game that you can play is, we all are emojis, right? We all love emojis. And trust me, we all are living emojis. It is up to us which kind of face we make. And this generation again like emojis. So can we have the emoji game for our children? Trust me, they will show you all the different kind of faces, and that is also a way to understand what they are feeling. When they walk into the class, are they coming happily or they are dragging their feet? Is one of the best way to find out whether the child is mentally ready for the class or not. Again, here storytelling, art and creativity, how they are using the crayons. Either they are doing the coloring nicely or they are just pressing it very hard. Will tell you their mental and emotional condition. Moving ahead is Vijnanamay Kosha, that is intellectual development. Sometimes we feel that they are just pre-primary kids, right? What kind of intellectual development they will have? But everything starts from there. Everything. Now, suppose you have to tell them, today half of my class is Siri and half of my class is Alexa. And this is the situation I have, now give the answers. Do not judge them with right and wrong. And when you do not do that, trust me, critical thinking, innovative thinking, out of the box thinking, everything happens. Then just give them one sentence and tell them to narrate their own story. Most of the time when we narrate the story, we do something which I am really very against, is we tell them the moral of the story. Now we tell them hare and tortoise story and we say slow and steady wins the race. Right? That is the moral. Right now, if Wi-Fi will stop working and our phones will start buffering, we will lose our patience. So how come slow and steady wins the race stands today also relevant? So let them have their own narratives for that. Let them have their own ending. The last one is Anandamay Kosha, which is spiritual and self-awareness development. Yes, it will take time for teachers also to incorporate that, and it will take time for children also to make that as a practice. But again, the purpose of education is to make each and every child happy. So are we again creating the ecosystem where everyone is happy? Do you as a teacher feel motivated to go to school and make a difference every day? If not, your class cannot be happy. Have you seen pre-primary classes? They are full of colors. Full of colors. Why? Because colors bring happiness. They change your mood. So between black and white there is grey. But sometimes grey is not the color that we use in our classes. We have all yellow, red, green. Because children are like those vibrant colors. आनंदमय कोश की प्राप्ति तभी होगी जब वो आनंद हम महसूस करेंगे. क्या हम उसको महसूस कर रहे हैं? हम सिर्फ जॉब कर रहे हैं कि हम देश बना रहे हैं? चाणक्य ने कहा है, शिक्षक कभी साधारण नहीं होता. शिक्षक कभी साधारण नहीं होता. सृजन और विनाश दोनों उसकी गोद में खेलते हैं. एंड प्री प्राइमरी एजुकेटर, यू आर द वन हु आर मेकिंग नेशन. ट्रस्ट मी, आप जो बना के देते हैं वही प्राइमरी आगे लेके जाता है. देन इट गोज टू मिडिल स्कूल एंड देन इट गोज टू सेकेंडरी स्कूल. सो हियर आनंदमय कोशा में सबसे ज्यादा टाइम लगेगा, लेकिन जरूरी ये है कि लेट देम फील इट. Let them feel internally happy about whatever they are doing. Okay, so this brings me to my last 1 minute. If you teach children how to color, how do you do that? How do we teach children how to color? We draw a shape and tell them to color. Yes, and most of the time the mother sitting here and teacher sitting here, we tell them color first the outline, then inside, and ensure that the color is not going out of the boundary. Right? Do we do that? Be honest. Yes. When we are putting a 2.5-year-old child inside the box, how do we expect them to think out of the box when they are going to primary classes? This generation is different. So what we need to do, if we are 100 people sitting here and if I give you a color pencil, I'll say, okay, scribble the way you want to scribble and then draw a shape. Each one of us, we are unique. That is what our children are. They are unique. Their full development and 100% development and holistic development is about taking care of all the koshas. And once we do that, trust me, the generation that we will send to primary and secondary will be the one who will be ready for the future. Thank you.
Absolutely lovely, so relevant. I love that you spoke about the layers of an onion. You know, everything is part of you and still it is layered. Even simple values of not wasting food in your plate and 30 other children also benefiting with that. Gamification and actually making it more relevant to today's world. Now we can use Siri, Alexa, emoji, whatever relates to the children and whatever the children can relate to. So rather than just teaching in our age-old way, but getting in new technology, getting in new things which children can identify with. Happiness. That's actually what we all want. Everyone's aspiring only for happiness. And if this comes out through your teaching, there's nothing better than that. And the best bit was, Shikshan is not sadharan. And that was for all of us. We are not ordinary, we are all extraordinary. It's high time we all remember that. Also, I want to tell you something about these Panch Koshas. These are all interrelated and they're intertwined. So, you know, it's a holistic, it's a symbiotic relationship that they all have. If I just take an example of a child who goes hungry to class, alright? So that's his Annamaya Kosha. It's his physical well-being is affected or impacted. And then he goes over there, I want to see the next kosha. Yeah, his Pranamaya kosha gets affected because he has no energy. He can't do anything. Obviously, his Manomaya kosha is also affected because his mind is distracted, he is hungry, right? What's going to happen to his intellectual kosha, the Vijnanamaya kosha? Do you think he's going to sit to learn? He doesn't want to learn. And is there any peace in his life? He is hungry. And then the Anandamaya kosha is lost. So one kosha impacts all the other koshas. And you can take it in any example. I give you a simple one. But you look in your life and in your classroom and see, if one kosha is impacted, every other kosha is impacted. So it's important to keep all in place. It's the balance of life. Lovely. Great. I'm not going in the order which is written here, but I've got the next question for you, Ritu. So the definition of aims in the NEP, I'm reading out because these are all definitions and they have to come across exactly how they're written in the NEP. Are educational visions statements and they give broad direction to all the deliberate efforts of the educational system. This could be curriculum, this could be funding, finance, institutional arrangements, everything. Now in the NEP, it states, NEP 2020 states that the aim of the education system is to develop good human beings, capable of rational thought and action, possessing compassion and empathy, courage and resilience, scientific temper and creative imagination, with sound ethical moorings and values. Now the aim of education can be achieved by developing in individuals desirable values, dispositions, capacities and knowledge. Ritu, my question to you is, can you please clarify the meanings of these words? You know, very deep words. Knowledge, capacities, values and dispositions as used in the document.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Amrita, for the question. Firstly, I would start with telling everybody is, I suppose, like me when I was given this question, NCF. The NCF word is very stressful. How do we implement that? Do you all agree? Yes or no? Because I was very stressed. NCF, you know, it's a very kind of a very difficult to digest or implement, or how do we even look at the document? 600 pages.
630
pages.
I read it
Yeah?
3 times. So
Yeah.
I know very well.
But believe me, when you look at it, it's very easy to understand. So the question given to me, understanding what is knowledge, capacities, values, and dispositions. Now, what is knowledge given in this document? The document is very articulately presented. The vision of education in relation to NEP is what NCF is all about. So knowledge, which is the aim of education, knowledge is a descriptive knowledge is what it is referred to. Knowing what? Knowing that. What are you knowing? We are knowing that, this building is made out of cements and bricks. Do we know that? Knowing that when the clouds turn grey, it's going to rain. Knowing that when we see the light, we are going to hear the thunder, because we know that light travels faster than the sound. So bringing these things in the classroom where you're playing with the concepts, you're playing with theories, principles, all these are the facts. These are the information which are provided to us. It's all descriptive, which we all know. But does the education stop here? How is it happening? Do we have an answer to that? How and what are the sources of the evidence? What is the fact? This is all about the knowledge, which is referred to in NCF. Capacities. Now, what is capacities? Capacity is a procedural knowledge, knowing how. How is it happening? How is the communication happening effectively? What is critical thinking? How is critical thinking applied in the classroom, in the mind of the child? How are you doing that? How are you developing that ability in the child? How do you play a game? How do you play cricket? We all know that cricket requires a bat and a ball and stump, and there are a particular number of players. But how are you playing that? It is all in this capacity document which is given. What is the ability of a child? How is the child riding? We all know that you give a rider to the child. What is the child going to do? The child is going to sit on the rider, because the child knows how to do that. The child is going to try pushing the legs backwards. The child will try, give a few attempts, and the child is going to do it. When you put the child on the seesaw or a swing, you know that because they've seen that. They are all reflective learners. And this generation, I'm sure you all agree with me, are all reflective learners. So when they're seeing you do something, or when they're seeing somebody do something, they are going to reflect to that, and they are going to try implementing that. That you are going pushing forward and backward, and you can just swing very easily. You're climbing up somewhere, sliding down, you know that this is the way you slide down. There are a few children who go the wrong way. You must have come across. They go the wrong way, they climb up you. Very good. So yeah. So they go the wrong way, and there are a few parents even encourage that. They put them directly on the slide, not letting them to climb up. We have seen that, right? If it is happening in the school, that's causing accidents. A lot of things can happen. If there is a rule set of how it is to be done, it is for a reason always. Now when we talk about values and dispositions, what are values? Moral values, social values, the democratic values. What are democratic values? Do we have democracy in our house also? Are we giving democracy to the teachers in the school? Are we giving democracy to the children in the classroom, where we are allowing them to talk, where we are allowing them to come forward with what they want in the classroom? Are we doing that? Are we giving the room space to the teachers, do whatever you want to do for today? Or are we slapping them with a curriculum, with a plan, Monday this, Tuesday this, Wednesday this, where there is no space, and then we question the teachers that where is the creativity? Why is the child not doing this? The child is not doing this, did not do this even last year. The curriculum was the same. Are we allowing that change? Are we bringing this democratic value in the classroom? High time we do that. In the 2 days, that is yesterday I would say, what was spoken is about giving democracy in the classroom, to bring a change in the classroom. There are a lot of values mentioned in this document, but I want to emphasize on value of being doing moral things and social. Like for example, we are having our Independence Day. Yeah. So there is a simple activity which which we do in the school since years. So who takes care of us? When you are sleeping in your house, when you are sitting inside the classroom, which is one person which is giving you that security that yes, I'm safe in the class. Nobody is going to enter the school. I'm not going to have somebody who I don't like or I don't want inside the classroom or inside the office. Who is that one person? Who is, sorry? Your security. When was the last time you said a thank you or you made the children say a thank you to the security? Every building has a security. We talk about army officers. We talk about navy. We talk about police. Police they are seeing on the roads. Yeah, but where are they watching, looking, coming across a military officer? Whom are they seeing every day? They are seeing that security. This is what? This is value, social value, moral value, where you ask the child on the Independence Day to go and say thanks to him by just giving a fruit or giving a wafer biscuit or anything. Just a thank you note. Can you imagine the smile on his face, the happiness which a child would get giving him that? You want to teach children sharing. Yeah? You want to teach children gratitude. Start from there where they live. Start from the place that they enter the school. Disposition, this is going to give attitude. How a child is going to look at the society, how a teacher is going to look at the society. So this changes which we can bring right in the classrooms with these NCP documents. It's beautiful. So I would urge everybody to not read once, read several times, read chapter wise and read in groups and discuss. This is very rich. There are pramanas given here. Pratyaksha, which is the direct perception which we have. 5 senses, we are using sensory in the class. Anumana, the inferences. You know when there is fire, I cannot go there. You have that knowledge. You are able to already inference. Upamana, knowing the analogy, the comparative, we are comparing. When we are going to compare a leopard and a cheetah, for an example, it's so easy for a child to understand that this has spots and this has rosette spots. It's so easy, comparisons. Arthapatti, the circumstantial implications. Anuplabdhi. There is, for example, we are coming to a lot of conclusions. We think, we assume, like for example, she's thin but she's eating so much, means she must be dieting. This is our interpretations. This is all it is about. Sabda. In some systems, knowledge, the testimony of an expert. So all this is something which you can take to your classrooms. All this is not rocket science. It is what you're already doing it. We just need to understand how to take it forward and how to do it exactly as per NCF. Like again, I would go to knowledge, knowing that. We know that Rita ma'am is a change maker in the national education policy. We all know that. We know that Gandhiji did what he did. So these are the facts. And I would thank you for the... Yeah, thanks.
Ritu, really very, very nice. I love that you just brought in the classroom on this panel out here. Democracy everywhere. Democracy in the classroom, at home, on the panel, in your life, everything equal, a world for everyone. Isn't this what we want? So beautifully expressed, Ritu. All these examples that you gave, your watchman, your social and moral values, the pramanas, such a rich document explaining all these things. And this knowledge, capacities, values, dispositions are the what, the why, the how, the rootedness and the moral compass of a child. Now you have all this and you have a 21st century citizen. Back to what you were saying, Rita ji, yesterday. So I think this panel is a continuation of yesterday's workshop. Yes. And of course with the master of the MEP over here. Right. So just getting that 21st century citizen with everything that Ritu has spoken has brought about a whole thing, a whole complete circle right here. Manobi, next question for you. So you're from the Northeast.
Yeah.
And on this panel, you're already seeing a diversity of culture. Over here, everyone is different. In this audience, you're seeing a further diversity. So multilingualism is pervasive in India. We're seeing it right here in this room. Children are all exposed to more than one language in their early years. Most children, I would say. Our world is getting smaller. Our country is getting even smaller. And it's advantageous for children to become multilingual earlier. We all know that. A key part is to instill the foundation of excellent multilingual skills orally in children as early as possible in a developmentally appropriate manner. The emphasis is to respect the child's home language, encourage the child to communicate and learn in their own language, and use the home language as far as possible as a language to teach. So, bilingual or multilingual approaches in this early years, with home language as the main language, and enable children to do an efficient switch between languages. I want your view on the NCF's approach to language education in this context, multilingualism. I also want you to speak about the challenges that you have faced and how have you resolved them.
Thank you very much for the question. Children of preschool, they come to us at the age of 3, right? So when they come to school, they have already learned their mother tongue, or you can say the home language. Language learning itself is a very, very critical skill, I would say. It requires assimilation of what others are speaking, comprehending them, then articulating them after synthesizing those information in your brain. So the child is already well versed in those particular skills when they come to our schools. So they have gained some competence of significant competence over the language skills. And the first skill of language is listening. They listen their home language a lot, which is why they are able to speak easily. Now just asking you all a simple question. Why are, you all being enlightened educators, whatever I'm going to speak, you already have a lot of information regarding that, right? But why are some of us hesitant to be on this side? Because it requires a lot of confidence and a lot of information processing and articulating skills, isn't it? So, which we are more confident in our home language. When it comes to a foreign language or an unknown language, we aren't confident enough whether we will be able to communicate. But once all of us leave, or maybe the front seat people leave, I'm sure there will be a lot of communication in the house, right? Why? You are left to your own comfort zone. You can communicate in any language you want, and you have that freedom, that autonomy, which is why you have a lot of thoughts, exchange of thoughts, and you also empathize and understand each other and exchange ideas. So the child also needs to be left on his own. Once we create a barrier of unknown language or a foreign language in front of him, there will not be communication in the house. There will be no communication. We will stop the communication of the child. So we are to build upon those skills which the child has already learned from home. listening skill, information processing, synthesizing those information, and then articulating. That requires a lot of confidence in the child. So why not let the child articulate his perspectives in the house, in the classroom, in his own language. And like ma'am said, if you tell the child, sit down, he may not understand, but he would understand his home language. And we had a lot of talk about cognitive development, which happens more in the early years. 85% of the cumulative brain development happens in the early years. And don't we all agree that brain development also happens through language? It is a very critical skill where, again, synthesis is happening in the brain. The child wants to articulate his thoughts. So he's synthesizing, accumulating all the information. So that requires a lot of brain work, which is why we need to give liberty about language to the child. You will not believe, I'm from that part of the country where lot of ethnicities and communities are there. And I was a part of the focus group for NCF, where we were struggling and juggling to accumulate the number of ethnicities and languages we have in our own state. And we discovered that SCRT Assam is making books in 9 languages. There are 9 languages for primary, and for ECCE, they are contemplating on making books on around 16 languages. Imagine, only one part of the country has this much. So how rich is our own country with so many communities and so many languages? And NCF says that the child has already a lot of exposure to multilingual setup. Think about the home where the child can switch languages. He's talking to one language, talking to father in one language. Again, when he sees the grandparent, he has changed the language. And when he is talking to the house help, he knows what to ask Didi or Moshi, isn't it? Which language he needs to communicate in. So the child, we cannot underestimate the child. He has got some mastery over language and knows how to switch language. So we can allow that. And NEP also says that 2 scripts, a child can have some visual knowledge of 2 scripts. What do we teach mostly in our schools? English and Hindi. So they are capable of being exposed. I mean, they can understand 2 scripts. That's fine. And multilingual setup we are talking about. So the child's home language is not only his medium of communication, it is also about his personality, about his cultural heritage. So if we have a multilingual setup, aren't we having that exchange of culture also? When NEP is talking about going back, rootedness in culture, we are also giving that to the child when we are giving the autonomy to each and every child to speak in his own home language. And I think what is our ultimate goal? To brain development, understanding the concepts, and if it is happening with any language, what is the harm? Let the child learn, isn't it? I think we shoulder a huge responsibility of removing that word from the dictionary of parents, English medium school. So let us remove that word from their dictionary, because parents, they come with lot of aspirations. मैं तो नहीं बोल पाया था English, मैम किसी तरह इसको English में बोलना सिखा दीजिए. So this is what they come up with. When they come to preschools, they also ask about admissions, right? इस particular school में admission मिलेगा कि नहीं? मेरे को बहुत मन था पढ़ने का इस school में. So I want my child to study in the convent. और अंग्रेजी तो बोलना ही बोलना है इसको. So बाकी कुछ करे या ना करे. So the parent also has to be educated about multilingualism. Then another thing which NEP has emphasized, NCF has emphasized, is about the formal method of teaching language. We are sticking to phonetics, right? P, B, Bolo, B. Change, chain, ch sound, sh sound. Is it required? Or the whole language approach is enough? We have to tod, for and jod this language learning process also, which again Madam had very well articulated in the previous workshop, and I went home and then contemplated it a lot, that this is required or not. The formal method of teaching on language, because NCF has said that if we give them an informal way of learning language, it is more easy to assimilate or understand. An informal method is a lot of other ways. Give them an environment where they learn the language. So when we are talking about conducive environment, we have to give them an environment of learning the language also. Give them enough scope, where environment means it can be play also. Let them play and learn the language. Okay, so it could be various other means where the child learns the language. So we are to think about the informal ways of teaching language. We are to remove the English medium word from the parents' dictionary, right? And also understand that multilingualism is enriching of cultural heritage, which is the need of the hour. Thank you.
I want to ask how many jolly phonics teachers over here. Put your hands up. All right, Manobi, you have to deal with this when you go out.
Manobi and me too.
Yeah.
I am the accredited trainer.
You are getting death threats already. You're on the stage.
You don't worry about it.
Okay, she has a armor sitting in the front seat here. Maybe you'll have to pass her to go there. All right, we'll get back. But very, very pertinent points. The child is comfortable in his own language. And we always talk about learning in stages. So you're comfortable in your own language and then you progress on to learning in a different language. Some very interesting things I was reading up is multilingualism stimulates cognitive development. And children can learn better because they can think of the ideas in not only one language, but more than one language. Right? Speaking in any language comes naturally to babies. Another thing is brains are wired to learn any language or to acquire any language. Now this cognitive language acquisition process, if it happens successfully in one language, then it happens seamlessly in any other language. So you don't have to worry if your child can speak in one language, your child can speak in multiple languages. He is not going to get confused. Also, one very important thing is, like she mentioned, children speak in two languages. They sometimes speak in two languages in the same sentence. I put my topis in the basket. Now they are not getting confused. The tenses, the words, the grammar all changes in that. It doesn't become topi and topia or whatever in Hindi, but it becomes topis because they're using the English term. Can you see how beautifully they do that? And that's called code switching. So they can code switch so easily. So we may be getting confused, but children don't get confused. So multilingualism is the order of the day. Lovely, Manobi. Thank you for saying that. Tasneem, next question is for you. So the NCF speaks about the 5-step learning process, and this is called Panchali. And this is a guide to formulating the sequence that the teacher is going to adopt to plan for instruction. Now, can you explain this Panchali 5-step learning process? Explain also how it can be implemented in the classroom for our audience.
Good morning, and good morning to everyone seated here. Good morning, panelists, and Amrita ma'am, lovely moderation happening here. So, when we talk about teaching, as we are teachers, to teach we need to learn, right? And that's very, very important. That's why we always say that, to teach is to learn twice. And I absolutely believe in this. We have to keep learning and learning and unlearning, relearning. So that's why most of us are here today again at Tod4, if I've correctly said that. Yeah, because we're here to learn, unlearn, relearn, right? Because it's a continuous process and it's a lifelong process. We continuously need to do that. And one more very important thing we need to keep in mind is that we're facilitators, we're educators, and teaching is an art, which starts actually in the heart. All right, and then it goes to the brain where your planning is taking place. And planning is essential to good teaching. If you plan well, you've taught well, and your children learn along with you. So always start here in your heart and then go on to your brain. So that really works. And you know how it is, right? Teaching is basically how bread is to butter. Similarly, planning is to a teacher. And the NCF, as you rightly said, ma'am, has beautifully given these 5-step processes, and it's so imperative to implement these in our schools. And I'm going to just take you through it very briefly, but we're keeping it very, very crisp so that you have some takeaways from this as well. So when we say planning, now what does planning include? Right? There's so much there out there for us to think about and wanting to implement. So let's remember this acronym, which is called CORD shape. Okay, CORDSHAPE. So what does C stand for? C is for construction. O is for organization of classroom tasks based on the competencies. Okay, so construction and organization of classroom tasks. R stands for resources. D stands for displays. What kind of displays are you going to have in your classroom? Right? S stands for the support activities that you will provide. H stands for the home assignments and tasks that you will send across at home. Our parents love homework, right? They like the reinforcements coming in. So what is the kind of task that you're going to provide to the children? P is the pedagogies that you can follow in your classroom that you would want to implement. E. Assessments, So I go to again, S was support activities, H is home assignments, A is for assessments. What kind of assessments are you're going to plan for teaching? And also, the formators and the summators that we talk about. So what kind of assessments are you going to plan? P is the pedagogies that you will follow in your classroom. E, most important and something that I really, vouch for is the experiences, the experiential learning that you will provide to the children for them to be able to make connections, right? So that was chord shape for all of you, all right? So the process of Punjabi is beautiful, and for me, it is EFG. I love acronyms, and that's what helps me remember things better and prepare this. So Punjabi is, in very simple words, EFG. What does it do? E stands for empowering. Okay, it empowers children to navigate through the landscapes of knowledge and ideas that they have. F stands for fostering a lifelong learning. Okay, and G is to nurture a growth mindset. So remember Punjabi, you have to remember EFG, and you have all of this, you're sorted. Okay, so let's go through the 5-step process of Punjabi. The first one, okay, is Aditi. Okay, Aditi is very, very simple. It's basically establishing connections. It's very, very important to know what a child already knows in order to teach something new. Establishing connections, understanding their prior knowledge to be able to build further onto that is very, very important, and that's what Aditi actually talks about. Even in fact, psychologist Piaget says that teaching children is the most important thing to do for a society. And after a lot of research, he said that like adults, youngsters also and children also, combine prior knowledge with their experiences, and they make sense of their own experience to their own schema. So it's very, very important. Connecting to previous knowledge plays a very vital role because it helps a child to understand what I know and build on to that same knowledge that they're going to now get. So it's a very important connection that they need to have and they need to create. And the process of activating prior knowledge and scaffolding allows children to link the new information to what they know. And this creates like a robust of network and interconnected ideas within their brains. And this helps in absolute retention, recall, and making it a very enjoyable process for them. They want to learn more. Curiosity is built within them. So, and a strategy that I use in the classroom, and I would encourage everyone to use in the classroom, is the placemat strategy. When you want to make prior knowledge connections, it's very, very simple. You take a sheet of paper, You either put an object in the center, or you can put a photograph, or you can draw something, and then around it you ask 4 questions. So that's called the placemat strategy. So suppose I'm talking about community helpers. Okay, it's a topic we always teach into the early years. So you can put a cap of a police officer, you can put a stethoscope of a doctor, and then ask them, who do you think uses this? What do you think it is? Where have you seen this? So they start making connections. Oh yes, miss, when I got to the doctor and I felt sick last evening, I saw him wearing this. Can you tell me more about it? So they're already building on to their prior knowledge and establishing connections in this first stage. So the placemat strategy works beautifully if you want to use that in your classroom ever for this first step of the learning process. Then the second phase is, the second step, if I say, is both. What does both mean? It's all about comprehension. Understanding the new concept or the topic that you just learned. Okay, and this can happen very easily through role play, through experiences that you provide, experiential learning, sensorial learning, play-based learning, all of that, experiments, discussion. So if I'm taking the same topic of community helpers, read a story about people who help us. Tell them to identify who was helping you at this particular point and who was helping the character in this particular aspect of the story when he fell sick. He was rushed to the hospital. So who came to help? The doctor. Oh, there was a fire in the building, and how was it doused? Who came to help? It was the firefighter. So that's what they're now comprehending, what was introduced to them about community helpers. At this point, I would also urge every educator and facilitator that keep asking questions. Encourage children to ask questions, because as you're reading, it just can't be you're reading and they are not following anything. You got to keep stopping, asking, and more importantly, encourage them to ask you, because that's when they're enhancing knowledge, they're building onto that knowledge. And also it's a very lovely, friendly environment at that point in time, because they're enjoying it, they are having the voice, they're having a choice. Right? It's not only directed by the teacher. So at this point, when you're doing the both part, do encourage questions, and it builds curiosity at that point in time. Moving on to the third aspect, it is abhyas. We all know practice makes perfect. So abhyas is basically practice that you need to provide opportunities for students to be able to recall and retain what has been taught to them. So at this point in time, I would suggest a role play. Because children love drama, they love to role play things. So, and also be very, very mindful that you don't tell them that become this particular, community helper. Show them around, give them, the code, the stethoscope, or put some, douse of pipe or etc. And let them choose which community helper they want to become. And then let them talk about it. Where have they seen this community helper? What's happening? So that is what they can do. Role play works beautifully, or you can, show them the uniforms of different community helpers, and they can look at it. Okay, last one, and I will end because I have to explain the last two. So I'll just go very briefly. Prayog. Okay, so Prayog is all about application. It's very, very important because that's when they realize the importance of what they have learned. So help children apply something in real life. Parents can get involved very beautifully, especially when they go out to malls. Ask them to identify the community helper there. The watchman, as you had rightly said, that's very, very important. They can do that. And the last one is Prachar, which I am doing right now. I am sharing my knowledge with you of what I know about NCF and Panchari. So that's what you encourage children to do. Whatever they learn, give them an opportunity to explain that, yes, and share it with their peers. Thank you. I'm sorry to get
You lovely, Tasneem. This is something which takes up a lot of pages in the book, and she explained and encapsulated this whole thing so well in such a short time. So thank you. You were really very nice. No one's going to forget chord shape. No one's going to forget EFG. So they got the whole thing in 2 words, 2 acronyms. Let me tell you. Also, I want to tell you, this Panchari prepares the stage for learning to happen. It helps conceptual understanding through interactive activities and engaging the child. It also goes on to helping them to practice, apply and extend their knowledge. So it's a whole process of learning which is happening in this process, and every teacher needs to use it for their instructions.
Amrita ma'am, in a nutshell, 10 seconds, I promise, I won't take
10
more.
seconds
10 seconds. So in a nutshell, to summarize this for all of you, Okay, Aditi is to make connections. Bodh is understanding and comprehension. Abhyas is practice and retention. Prayog is extension and application. And Prachar is knowledge, which is sharing like a presentation. That's what it is.
Super, you got it all. Okay, now we're short pressed for time. So I'm going on to Ms. Nanu Rekhi. The NEP states that the two broad methods of assessment appropriate for the foundational stage are observations of the child and analyzing artifacts that the child has produced as part of their learning experience. Can you explain this assessment procedure prescribed? How can it be executed in the classroom? We'll have to keep to time because we're showing only 5 minutes.
Thank you, Amrita ma'am. Namaskar everyone. In the first place, I'll take count of 2 things. We've got to celebrate NCF. That's what the ECA says. And when we celebrate NCF, we are celebrating each and every aspect of NCF, even assessment. We've said a lot, we've thought a lot about planning, about all the other aspects, about Acharying. All this as a reference to the assessment part, when it actually comes to the classroom environment. Secondly, very rightly said by Rita ma'am last evening, that now NEP and NCF, these are 2 terms which are drawing room popular. Yes, we have chats in our drawing rooms, in our living rooms and in coffee shops saying कि NEP आ गया है. We are also hearing parents जो आके स्कूल में पूछते हैं, पहले पूछते थे आप राइटिंग कराते हैं कर्सिव या प्रिंट, अब कहते हैं आप NEP कराते हैं, NCF कराते हैं, without actually conceptualizing that NCF is a framework. Because of course they are parents, they are not facilitators at school, we are facilitators at school, and we need to be confined to what is being given to us in that framework. Yes, it's a framework first of all. And the framework gives a lot of scope for creation. It is not rigid, yes. But when it comes to assessment, it's got to be very, very specific and facilitator and learner oriented. We are queen bees as facilitators and we get the entire command when it comes to making report cards. Now when it comes to NCF, assessment is not only about making report cards. It is a part of planning the actual pedagogical thing that you take to the class, because each and every instance, each and every minute, each and every response that the child elicits is going to give you an instance for assessing the child. See, it's all about the Panchakosha. So, Panchakosha में आप क्या छोड़ देंगे? अनन्यमय कोश छोड़ देंगे? विज्ञानमय कोश छोड़ देंगे? क्या छोड़ देंगे? सभी कुछ को आपने मूल्यांकन करना है. It's got to be continuous. It's got to be ongoing. It's got to be with upward continuity. Yes. So all these things are very important. As far as the Panchari is concerned, I'm making a referral to these 2 things because these are the actual crux, and it needs to be taken care of at every step, every moment when we are in a classroom. आप सब कुछ आपके सामने हो रहा है, बच्चा बैठा है, बोध भी कर रहा है, सुन भी रहा है, अधिगम भी हो रहा है. What about प्रचार? वो तो घर जाके भी होता है. तो आप तो assess कर रहे हैं classroom में. So you've got to actually make a teamwork with the child, with the parents when it comes to assessment of the child as per NCF. See, we are going to we've got to be introspective as teachers. It's not about filling up report cards with grades anymore. It's actually about showing a progression in the child's behavior. In the class, outside the class, whatever the child does, at school, at home. That means a lot of hand-holding with the parents to catch up with what the child says, how he relates, what relations is he or she having at home with so many family members, with the neighborhood, with the family, with the extended family. All these things have become suddenly very important when it comes to assessing a modern day, modern school child, which yesterday also I mentioned is a no-nonsense child. The child herself is very participative when it comes to assessment. क्योंकि अब हमारे को ये framework एक right दे रहा है कि हम उसको भी अपने बारे में अनुमान लगाने का एक पूरा अधिकार दें. Whether you like this activity, whether you put under emojis की बात हुई है अभी. बच्चे बोल के नहीं बताएंगे, लिख के भी नहीं बताएंगे, emoji पे टिक लगा के जरूर बताएंगे. No, I didn't like this activity. I'm making a sad face. I like the sad face because I didn't like this activity. So you've got to be actually prone to the needs of the child, of the parent, of the community while assessing the child. We are not the hawk anymore. Yes, we have rights to assess, the formative assessment part, of course, the continuous one, but we also are very, very deeply duty bound for this curriculum framework, which gives assessment a very progressive role. It has to be observed. Then another very important point which comes up through the NCF, that this kind of assessment which the NCF is talking about, it's got to be so objective that it pops up the learning gaps amongst our class group. Yes, we are not assessing, that is true, we are assessing the child individually, but then we are also assessing the class group as part of the minimum levels of learning. What are we going to give to the next level? It is talking about the upward continuity. मेरी क्लास नेक्स्ट लेवल पर कैसे जा रही है, कौन सी एक चीज सीख कर जा रही है. So I've got to pay more attention to children who are lesser with certain things. Yes, we've got to give them more time when we actually, point out for ourselves, for our report cards, for everything, for our worksheets कि क्या कर पा रहा है, क्या नहीं कर पा रहा है. But as a whole, what is my class actually doing when it moves on to the next level, so that when we come to the national equity, we tend to forget at times. We are so confined to our own schools and class groups that this NEP and this NCF has come up as a national mission. Yes. So what am I going to give my next level, so that ultimately it's not only my class, my school, my university, my college, but it's the nation which is at work together through the NCF. That matters. So this learning gap thing is very important. I'll be a little quick now. I know the time is. There's actually so much with assessment. Then additional burden and judgment is a big no-no. Facilitator has to count out these two terms from her dictionary. And she has to absolutely not judge and absolutely not give any kind of burden to the growing child who's being assessed. So that means that the assessment has to be inbuilt in the lesson. So this is another very important thing. And then of course the methodology of assessment that the NCF talks about. We have the observation through the anecdotes and the checklist and the event sampling. I'll not be going into the details because I'm very short of time and I've been shown this time out thing. Last time, next time I'll be last many more. And of course the artifacts which have to be collected. At that point of time, the teacher or the facilitator becomes a banker. Collect them, possess them, cherish them, because that shows the progression of the child for so many mental capacities, for so many physical capacities, for so much of creativity. And the child knows that something safe is with my man. Please don't give it out to parents, every parents teachers meeting. Possess it in this thing, and towards the end of the session, when the child moves on to the next level, show the parents the progression that the child has followed all through this 1 year. And last but not the least, these observation, artifacts and event sampling, whatever you will be able to read in the NCF, the entire chapter is there, leads to the holistic progress card. Yes, now the word holistic, it's not a report card. I'm sorry to say that we as facilitators have made our education, our cause for education result oriented and not learning oriented. हम हमेशा बात करते हैं नीट की, IIT-G की, हाँ उसके लिए हम तैयार करें बच्चों को उसी लेवल से, but in a manner that is requisite for the growing child, for the learner. Why should we snatch away the right of the child? और अब तो NEP हमारे को 5 years foundational stage दे रहा है. We have all the time. Let the child be, let the child learn and get assessed unknowingly. Helping whatever he possesses, whatever the strengths are there in his or her learning personality, and sort out the weaknesses slowly and steadily. I think I'll have to stop. I have so many other
pages more. This is a whole chapter.
Yes, yes.
And she's actually putting it out in one small chapter and adding value to everybody's learning over here. Just with those points and which are so relevant right now. And I can see that you have spoken about prasad. You're making the connection between Panchadi and making the connection with your assessments. Everything about this is so beautifully interwoven. If you see the document, every part of it is linked to each other. So your prasad, your learning is happening somewhere, and the expansion and the whole sharing of it is happening in another community. A community of your parents, a community with your neighbors, with your family. It's all interlinked. And we also, she's brought about, I have to tell you, Nanu, you have brought about all these linkages in your talk.
One solution, one word solution to everything. The principle of integration. We need to integrate for ourselves, to integrate for the learner, and to integrate for them to become lifelong learners. It's not only that moment of learning that is important.
Is that whole time over?
Yes.
Oh, really? I haven't even gotten into my second round. Do I have to give voice and choice to my audience? I don't even have that.
5 minutes extra.
Oh, I've taken 5 minutes extra. This is not my fault. This is because I have this august expert panel over here, which I also couldn't stop listening to. So I couldn't help it, but we have to enjoy it. Just 1 minute. I want to thank all of you. You gave your time so generously. You gave your experiences. You shared so generously for all of us over here. This conversation was so robust and so rich, right? Something for everyone to take back. I also want to tell you all, there is very little literature written by Indian educators. This policy document is free on the internet. It's a piece of gold. Take it and comb through it. You know, like the fine teeth of comb, literally comb through it. Read it once, read it twice. It takes many, many times of reading for you to get and understand and also make these linkages. So please go through it, and it's been our pleasure to be here with you all. I hope you'll all take back as much as you
Thank you so much, Amrita and all the panelists here. I would request